کنفرانس در ایالت آریزونای آمریکا. سخنرانی شخصیتهای برجسته آمریکایی و منتخبان ایالت آریزونا. فینیکس، 13 فوریه 2015. خطر بنیادگرایی و تروریسم تحت نام اسلام و تهدید دستیابی رژیم ایران به سلاح اتمی. ضرورت حمایت از مجاهدین خلق ایران، آنتیتز بنیادگرایی و دعاوی قرون وسطایی رژیم آخوندی حاکم بر ایران. پیام سناتور جان مکین: ضرورت حمایت از حقوق مردم ایران و یک سیاست قاطع در قبال رژیم آخوندی. شهردار رودی جولیانی. ژنرال هیو شلتون، رئیس پیشین ستاد مشترک نیروهای مسلح آمریکا. لیندا چاوز، مدیر پیشین روابط عمومی کاخ سفید. پال گوسار، نماینده کنگره آمریکا از ایالت آریزونا. مارک برنوویچ، وزیر دادگستری ایالت آریزونا. رابرت گراهام، رئیس حزب جمهوری خواهان ایالت آریزونا. سناتور آدام دریگز، رئیس کمیته قضایی سنای ایالت آریزونا. جیم بارینگ، معاون شهردار فینیکس، ایالت آریزونا. دیوید لیوینگستون، ناظم مجلس ایالتی آریزونا. ریک گری، رئیس کمیته حمل و نقل و زیرساخت‌ها در مجلس ایالتی آریزونا.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you very much and welcome. On behalf of the mayor, the city council, and the citizens of Phoenix, we are thrilled that you're all here for such an important conference. And to call this panel distinguished is probably a large understatement, but I think it speaks for itself that this august body would come together to discuss such a pressing topic today. 120,000 Iranian citizens have been killed as part of the loyal opposition, and that's a tragedy that knows no bounds. Think of what a nuclear-armed Iran could do, and think about Kayla Mueller. That shows that we are not immune to such tragedies here in Arizona or in the United States. So we welcome you here. We're grateful that you're here expressing an interest in such an important and pressing topic, and we're just grateful to have your support, and hopefully we can unify to bring about change in Iran.
Thank you very much. It is very gratifying to be back in the wonderful state of Arizona. And it seems like every time I'm here and speak to the Iranian American community of Arizona, both that community and its friends grow larger. But I want to open this conference just to put in perspective why it is we're here today. You know, it is impossible to go on the internet or to open a newspaper or to turn on your television without becoming aware of how extremely important the issue that we're here to deal with is. And we have seen in the last few weeks just untold barbarism. You know, the burning alive of a Jordanian pilot kept in a cage and immolated for the entertainment of his captors. And of course, here in Arizona, the death of Kayla Mueller and the fact that the idea of terrorism, which we like to sometimes think somehow happens someplace else. It happens beyond our shores. As Mayor Giuliani and many others on this panel can assure you, it happens here as well, and it happens to Americans. But when we think about the threats today, I mean, so much attention is now focused on the Islamic State, ISIS, and the threat that it poses in the region. We've seen the government in Sana'a in Yemen collapse with the help of terrorists there funded by the Iranian regime. And when we think about all of these different separate terrorist groups, whether it's Al-Qaeda or ISIS or the people in Nigeria, whether it's happening in Africa or it's happening in the Middle East or whether it's happening in the streets of Paris, one thing we have to remember is that there is an even larger threat, and that is in the state of Iran, where we have a murderous regime that kills and tortures its own people. For those of you who have not had the chance, I direct you to, at some point before you leave, to take a look at the display to show what the Iranian regime has done to the Iranian people. And in fact, the biggest threat that we face is the possibility that that regime is very close to being able to produce nuclear weapons. And we have now going on the six-party talks that are aimed at supposedly putting together an agreement that would halt the nuclear ambitions of the mullahs in Iran, but in fact we've seen virtually no progress. So all of that is to focus our attention today on what we're here to talk about. And we have a very, very distinguished group of people, and I'll be introducing some of the elected officials from Arizona a little bit later in the program. First and foremost, I think it's important to hear a very powerful voice. I think really the most powerful voice in the United States Senate when it comes to foreign affairs and foreign relations. And that is the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Senator John McCain, who would very much have liked to have been here today, but he was not able to make it back in time to be here in person. But he has sent a videotaped message, and we're going to listen to that now.
Hi, I'm John McCain. I wish I could be with the great Iranian-American community of Arizona as you discuss some of the most pressing challenges around the globe today and hear from exceptional leaders such as General Hugh Shelton, Linda Chavez, and my dear friend Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Indeed, we are facing a diverse and complex range of security challenges around the world. Iran is on the march in Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and elsewhere across the Middle East. ISIS continues to expand its influence and control of territory, and Islamic extremists are launching a new wave of attacks against Western ideals of freedom and democracy. Faced with this disturbing reality, America cannot retreat, but must lead with a coherent strategy to fight the threats we see today. We must also lead an international effort to support the human rights of the Iranian people and to put that effort at the center of our policy toward Iran. It has never been more important to stand up for the universal values we hold dear and champion the cause of all who seek to secure those values for themselves. Again, I thank you for leading these very important discussions, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon in the great state of Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks to each of you for that very warm welcome. It is really great to be with you here in Phoenix, and let me say right from the outset how much I appreciate and thank the Iranian American community of Arizona for organizing this very timely conference. I'm also honored to be on the dais today with such a distinguished group of individuals. In particular, if I might single one out, the man that I've traveled around the globe with, trying to bring attention to the cause of the MEK, the Mayor Rudy Giuliani. But it's a pleasure to be with each and every one of you. And to our very good friends and close friends in Camp Liberty, Salam Alaikum. Last Tuesday, the crisis in the Middle East was once again shockingly striking a note that was close to home when Kayla Mueller's family confirmed that this 26-year-old aid worker had been killed in Syria approximately 1 year and 7 months after she had been taken captive by the Islamic State, otherwise called today ISIS, and had been killed. But I fear, as long as the Obama administration's current weak-willed policy persists, that she is not going to be the last. The time for leading from behind should be over. That you stand for what's right and you fight for what's right. For the human lives across the globe, what the price will be if we do nothing. You don't reveal your strategy to the enemy, and certainly you don't tell them what your force levels are going to be, and you don't tell them what the time constraints that you're working under is. And although ISIS has thoroughly dominated the headlines coming directly out of the Middle East in recent months, as we've all seen, this occasion provided a very useful opportunity to remind the world that Tehran is essentially the modern prototype of fundamentalist Islam, a perverted version of the great religion, of course predating ISIS, predating Al-Qaeda, and being responsible for the first major confrontation between the Islamic fundamentalism and the West during the 1979 Iran hostage crisis. Because the problem at the moment may be ISIS, but the problem in general throughout the Middle East is Islamic extremism, and Iran embodies that. The facts should be rather obvious, but the current administration appears to be blind to every aspect of Iran's behavior and their impact on global stability that doesn't directly affect the nuclear negotiations or the short-term combat with ISIS. And yet lawmakers from both parties, and in particular the esteemed chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator John McCain, they are well aware of Iran's past double-dealing on the nuclear issue, and they are very rightly concerned that the Islamic Republic's unwillingness to compromise on the forthcoming deal signals that we're just going to get more of the same out of Iran. Likewise, Iran's critics in the U.S. Congress and foreign policy circles have not forgotten that Iran is consistently listed as the leading exporter of terrorism in the world. The MEK is too often neglected, although they are fighting on a daily basis, as we see here. They are paying the price because they are fighting for democratic rule and a more tolerant version of their faith. They're fighting for government that promotes gender equality, universal suffrage, religious tolerance, and a non-nuclear Iran. The correct policy for the United States is to support these groups in lieu of choosing another among equally monstrous established powers such as Iran that can only further destabilize the region and lead to more deaths not only among Middle Easterners but also among Westerners as well, like Kayla Mueller. To partner with Iran in the fight against ISIS is like asking the arsonist to help put out the fire. This would be a recipe for disaster in every way, shape, and form. ISIS is a plague, and it must be uprooted, and it must be stamped out. But to do so, we must eliminate the root cause of fundamentalist Islam, namely the regime in Tehran, which has acted as the central banker of terrorism and the ideological, the financial, political, and military background for extremism in the region for the past 35 years. In closing, I want to tell our friends at Camp Liberty that we stand with you. Not a day goes by that I personally do not pray for your welfare and safe being. And I would also add that I would ask the United States to at least consider arming the residents at Camp Liberty. In America, we have a thing called the Second Amendment, and it is something that is guaranteed to our citizens. I guarantee you these are fighters, and if faced with the choice of having their hands tied behind their back and shot through they'll come out fighting, but they've got to have something to fight with. They are making daily sacrifices, enormous sacrifices, and basically to make sure that they can fight to see Iran, one of these days, torn from the clutches of the mullahs. And I hope that we all can join together, along with the residents of Camp Liberty, in a free and democratic Iran. And with your continued support, and with the will and strong support of those still at Camp Liberty, and the enormous support from President-elect Roger V., I am confident that one day, very soon, that will come true. Thank you, and may God bless. Thank you.